Here today, um, I believe that there are just two kinds of people in the world. There are salespeople and there are overhead. And so I'm selling all the time. So I understand that. The bottom line here is that this is one of the greatest opportunities in the history of commerce. I am about as thrilled and excited and scared to death as I've ever been about anything that has happened. I want to point out, too, that these really are Babson's colors, that I didn't change it just because I was coming to Ireland. I might have, but I didn't. But, it's interesting. Since this is an AI conference, I thought I should do some construction of the presentation with AI. So I said to AI, I'm going to Ireland. Could you bring Ireland, Belfast, and Babson together in some graphic way for me? Oh, no, sorry. They said, yes, you should adjust your name. Now, this is a weird conversation I'm having with this thing that's not supposed to be sentient. And I said, okay, give me the proper name to use in Ireland. And they said, oh, Spinelli. So we have adopted that, and anytime I speak to any Irish folks, I am now going to be Dr. O. Spinelli. And I think it fits perfectly in this, but they brought it together in what I think is one of the ugliest depictions of any two organizations coming together ever. And it is a cautionary note about artificial intelligence. Your interface with artificial intelligence is the key human factor. It is not about the technology, it is about you and your use of the technology. If nothing else, please remember that. It is my responsibility to use this tool in an effective way. It is one of the great tools in the history of commerce, maybe in the history of education, maybe in the history of the world, but it's your responsibility. Take it personally. And if you do, you'll fix your name and you'll fix the kinds of graphics. Now, I did say to AI, I must say, and it becomes enjoyable. The whole process of, it's almost like it's a person. It gets a little weird, I must admit. I said, could you personalize the relationship between Babson and Ireland? Now, I will say, that is Roger. It's interesting. I've been around Babson. I was a student at Babson. I was a professor at Babson. I'm the president of Babson. I've never seen a picture of Roger Babson smiling. And I said, I wonder if there's a real picture. I'm going to do the homework when I go back. Is there a real picture of Roger smiling, or did AI create that picture of Roger smiling? I will say slightly irritating because of the recent Gulf situation between the two companies, but that's okay. Listen, I think the world is a mess. Now, the reality for an entrepreneurial mindset is perversely sort of good news. If it's a mess, let's fix it. If we fix it, and especially, and I'm going to very seriously say, I'm not worried about, do apologies to anybody in government here. I don't care. It's not your responsibility. It's education's responsibility. We need to teach much better. We need to accept the responsibility to help people think through this. That's what our job is. Our job is not to transfer existing knowledge. It is to create new and interesting knowledge that will be absorbed in the population and used to solve problems. Well, we've got a big problem in the world. There are more problems today than the day I was born. That means there's more opportunity to fix it. And frankly, and I don't mind this part, there's a bigger opportunity to make money. And that's okay. That's society's reward for you fixing the problem. There is a very, very quantitative way to get measured. It's called net worth. I'll do it. I love it. And I want to talk about how higher education can do that. Now, this is the parochialism that I see a lot. One of the things that I'm so excited about AI is the issue of scale. And for the first time, we can scale to the entire globe. I'm starting to think, could we, if there is life somewhere, should we get advanced rights to use AI and sell stuff elsewhere? I think this is so big that everything you think about should be about scale. Can I get there? If you don't, someone else will. I made money in two businesses. One was changing oil in cars. The other one is lifting weights. How long has the human condition been changing oil in cars? 120 years? Lifting weights? I don't know, 2 million years? But an interesting difference in the way we presented it allowed for scale. We could build thousands of units to deliver this service across the globe, and you get rewarded for that. And I want you to think about it. But I also don't think it's a problem in America. I think it's a problem in the world. I think higher education has a unique opportunity to reassert itself as a doer of good and a creator of value. And I would demand that, by the way, of colleges. And you know, the marketplace is a tough judge. And the marketplace, one of these is from the BBC, so it isn't just about higher education in America. Think about this. What was it? 4 in 10 universities are in financial challenges. You know what that means? That means 80%, because there's probably an equal number that aren't presenting their books in a way that would logically lead you to invest in them. The higher education financial model is a mess. This AI is a gift to figuring that out and going forward. There are, you know, again, I'm a retailer, so I have to say things in ways I can remember. And the older I get, the harder this is becoming. I frame the problem as fraught, fragile, and favorable. And as I frame most of life, I look, is it fraught, is it fragile, is it favorable? If it is not fraught, that probably means there's conditions there that someone has already taken advantage of. The market is settled. Is it fragile? If it's not, I've got a competitor that is probably strong. So it's not fragile. They're dominating the marketplace. Is it favorable? If it's not, I don't want to invest my money there. But what we have now, a current condition in almost all operations, and I would ask you to go back to your companies and do this little fraught, fragile, and favorable analysis. And can you fill it out? And ask other people in your organization, just give me 1 or 2 bullet points around each of those, and what do they think? No, it's not fraught. Here's why. Yes, fraught, here's why. And you get to an understanding as an organization about where you sit in the marketplace. I'm bragging here a little bit. Heather McGowan, I think, is a genius. If you haven't read her book, heard her podcast, you should. She's also a former student of mine. And it's a perfect example of the student teaching the teacher. She was always the toughest. She was always there early in class. She always asked the hardest question. You know, here's a technique. I use this all the time. You should use this even in your own organizations. Where someone asks you, I'll do this today. Someone asks you a difficult question. You really don't have the answer, but your ego is such that you don't want to admit you don't have the answer. So you say, that is a really interesting question. Heather, what do you think? Because I knew she would have the answer. So you go to the smartest person in the room and find your smartest person in the room and use them to leverage. Some of the work she's done is amazing, and we have worked together to look at different problems and to analyze them. And I said, I want to talk about higher education and the state of higher education, where it has historically been and where is it going? And what is the impact of AI on that? And we've been talking about this for years now, and it has been a very important part of how I've shaped the organization that I'm a part of. Historically, what we've done is to segment it into clear places, K through 12 and university. Universities can have some flexibility there. And the age groups are clearly defined, and you have a rough life expectancy of 67 historically, and the way we have built our education system is on this model. Now look what it says here, and I think the blue box is important. We're going to codify and transfer predetermined skills and existing knowledge. I have the knowledge, you come to my class, I deliver it to you, you get certified, and you're called a manager, or a doctor, or a lawyer. That has worked for a long time. In many ways, that's worked for a couple of thousand years. So it's really hard to give up a habit that is a couple of thousand years old, by the way. I think it's changed dramatically. And I think AI has absolutely destroyed that model. And the reason higher education and education in general is such a mess is they don't know how to adapt to this, what I believe is the new model. Identity resilience is a great phrase. It's Heather's phrase. I would like to claim it, but she had already copyrighted it. It's an incredible articulation of how you must change. You think about this. I am an MBA. I am a doctor. I am a lawyer. I am an Indian chief. You get titles and you stick with that title. We are disturbing that at its core now. What I'm saying here is that you learn and you engage, and the market changes, and you must learn. And if you've learned here and done something here, as you come back and start to learn more, you catapult to a higher level of engagement. I don't know what the timelines really are in this. Anybody that says they do, it'll change tomorrow. As I reviewed this on the plane, I thought, there's about 17 different slides I might use. It's just going to continue to change at that rapid pace. You just got to get in the game in this. But you can see that it's going to just really ratchet around. And you have to learn and adapt to new value creation. There's a new value curve all the time, and it's messier. It isn't that nice curve that we used to teach. I'll show you how I used to teach, in a minute, how I used to teach entrepreneurship. Here is part of the concern that the marketplace has. The marketplace doesn't have concerns. It has actions and reactions. You have concerns. I have concerns. People have concerns. What is happening is the pace of change, just simply articulated here, with society-defining technologies intervening with our lives and having an effect on how we live our lives. And you go from the steam engine to silicon cognition, and you can see the slope driving so hard. All of this change is where that knowledge is getting stuck and where it's hardest, where you have to come back down, you have to learn. You have to change your business model. You have to understand your customer better. You have to understand that they're going to change very quickly. That's frankly, the students today are more collaborators in the classroom than they are students. They are used to this ratcheting in a much more significant way. This doesn't upset them. This is natural. This is natural for you and I. This is natural for them. Now, this part hurts my brain, and I haven't come to a conclusion yet about this. We introduce AI. That says to me, I think there's a 51% chance I'm wrong, that the curve is going to even get steeper here. So how steep can it get, and can that happen? Now, I don't think, we're not going back to steam engines. Steve, you're not going back to steam engines. It's a silly proposition. Well, here's my fear as I think through this just a little bit more clearly, and I am not close to any kind of conclusion, is that the technology will keep going. Will we turn that way? Will the human interface regress because of AI? Don't, Steve, look in the mirror. Don't let that happen. You're the educator. It could. We could get lazy decision-making. We could go back to that horrific mashup of the Titanic in one of the buildings at Babson and accept that as the truth. We can't let that be the truth. We have to define the truth. We have to stay on the positive curve. We can't revert. I think that's the difference. And I would caution you around that you have to be the active player. That was my initial message. Here's how in new venture creation and growth, I always think about the high potential venture. That's how I was trained. Again, when I went home, I was young when we started Jiffy Lube. I am significantly older than that now. But I went and I said to my parents, we're going to start a company. That's good, we think. We came from very humble background. We're going to start a company. They said, we endorse that. What are you going to do? I said, we're going to change oil. My mother started crying. She said, you're going to be a mechanic? I said, no, I'm not going to have that many skills. I'm not going to have those technical skills. She didn't understand that it was a business model that we were exploring. And what we used to do is we would explore that. We'd experiment around that. Then we'd say, we think there is market demand, and we're going to exploit that at a higher level. We're going to execute, and we're going to expand and optimize. I taught that curve, that normal distribution curve, for a lot of years, both in my own businesses and in college. That's an old way of thinking, I think. This is emerging. I got to tell you, Every day, I think I got to change this. I looked at this morning and I said, I think I got to bring these curves a little bit higher here. I think that the slope of the curve is going to be higher, but I'm not sure. I want you to think about that. I want you to think about organizations that are going to constantly iterate, that cannot stop, that are built into your DNA, that change is good. We've always learned that in the old model, change was bad because we have to stay on the curve. We've got a competitive advantage. We looked for incremental refinements of the curve. This is looking for real change. The base of knowledge I have gives me a competitive advantage in the next iteration. And that's what AI is starting to teach us, and that we can use to consolidate that model, that amount of information into planning. What is it that I learned, and what is it that's happening in the marketplace? If I put that together, what does the new curve look like? And do I have a rational plan to build a business or to iterate my business to be able to build this new curve? And when you think about continually doing that, the amount of value that is created over time, remember, value is on the y-axis over here. I create significantly more value. That's Roger, again. Roger was an interesting guy. He loved sailing. He sailed around the world, and that's how he recruited students to Babson, sailing around the world, and going to rich families, frankly, and bringing them to Babson, and teaching the next generation how to, and he had this globe built. At the time, it was the largest three-dimensional globe in the world. It is still one of the largest, and it's in the middle of our campus, and it's rotating. I think he was prescient. That is your marketplace. I used to teach, I still teach, I still act on segmented markets, but my view has just expanded. I can look at this, but I can see there's more around it, and that's the issue of scale. I think entrepreneurship education, understand I'm a bit of a fanatic, so you'll filter some of this through your own rational mind, but I think it's about entrepreneurship education. Historically, for most of history, people thought entrepreneurs were born. There was a fairy godmother and went around to all the cribs and said, yes. I'm sorry. No. Yes. I don't subscribe to that. I don't think that was ever true. And we begin to learn that there are characteristics of entrepreneurship, most of which can be nurtured and taught. And there are processes that certainly can get taught. And there are capital marketplaces that will reward that. From the 1950s to the 1980s, it's teachable, but only to special people. Then it was 1980s to 2010. It can be taught in varying degrees to everyone. Maybe. 2010 and ongoing, it must be taught. It is a core competency now. If you can't react to rapid change in the marketplace, you fail. You're going to fail. Your business model, your career, you must understand the entrepreneurial process. You must understand that iteration around market demand and how to adjust the business model. You are innovative or you are dying. I think it has created a form of leadership. We have to build relationships in an organization that we have a common vision. How do you build a common vision? A leader says, let's have a relationship and let's form that vision. Now let's have a relationship one-to-one, one-to-many, and many-to-many. And when you get to many-to-many, you have an organization that really believes and can really grow an organization, can really grow a company. I think from 2022, maybe earlier, all these dates could have some variance on it, it's okay, but generally I think that's the slope of the curve. That AI is going to be an important part of every single business and everything you do. And I think that leads to a conclusion that entrepreneurial leaders will be impacting communities everywhere. 5 words I can remember. It's my whole, you got to have just a few words. I'm a retailer, fraught, fragile, and favorable. Entrepreneurial leaders impacting communities everywhere. These are phrases I can remember and focus on. Every word is important here. You aren't the entrepreneur. Your organization has to be entrepreneurial. You have to be the leader in that organization. That means you have to build consensus. You have to build relationships. Again, one-to-one, one-to-many, and many-to-many. And it is about a community everywhere, and that everywhere means huge markets. Now, Babson has embraced this in a big way. You're selling or you're overhead. I am selling. I believe that the marketplace has rewarded us. We invented the academic discipline of entrepreneurship. I went to Babson as an MBA. We started Jiffy Lube, and we had 3 or 4 stores, and we were doing terrible. And I said, it's either this concept isn't working, or I just don't have enough knowledge. I'm not smart enough or don't have enough knowledge to make it work. So I decided if I wasn't capable, that was a bad thing, so I had to go get more education. There was some hope in that at the very least. And that brought me to Babson. It brought me to Babson because I drew a 90-mile radius around my house. It was the only college in 90 miles that taught a course in entrepreneurship. Now you can't find a college that doesn't teach a course or have a concentration or have a major in it. The world has accepted that this is an incredibly important discipline to have. It is the liberal arts of business management. And the trajectory, we were 126 best college by the Wall Street Journal. There's 4,000 colleges in America. That puts us in the top 3%. Until 3 years ago, when they ranked us number 10. And then 2 years ago, 2. And then 2 days ago, it kind of ticks me off they put Stanford there, but that's okay. They named us number 2 again. And now we're in I love this slide actually, because it shows the kinds of brands that we're with. This is the market acceptance that entrepreneurship is a core competency. That's my conclusion. It also says they must have a brilliant president. That doesn't go as well when I use that line. But it does say that entrepreneurship is now important. And how are we doing it more specifically? What are the things we're doing? One of the things that we do, we have about 60 colleges that we brought into a consortium to study entrepreneurship and entrepreneurial behavior around the world. We needed to have a global view, not US-centric view, of what the entrepreneurial process was and what was leading that. And what we found in the last 2 years of heavily researched data is that AI is first and foremost a catalyst for new ventures. It is really making a difference. There is a skills gap. And this is driving our strategy. And let me tell you, look at the colleges and universities around you or the other knowledge providers, and what are they doing? What are you doing in your organization? You're in charge in your organization. Go figure out what is the knowledge needed to really hone your business model and get the knowledge. And it is one of the more interesting findings is that AI is shaping whole ecosystems. Suppliers of capital, suppliers of goods, the real estate market, ideas. It is impacting everything that you're doing in your ecosystem. And there is an interesting ethical and inclusive AI use question. I do think that there is a potential, like anything. I have friends in the Native American community who said a knife could kill someone or it could cut your meat and you live forever because you're going to eat well. So it is what humans do with the tool that is the important issue. But we have to come to some conclusions about this. We have to have some policies, and I think education has to really grapple with that. I think government will, for the government people here, I apologize, they'll likely screw it up, and education is going to have to fix it. And what are we doing about the teaching? The future of high-touch teaching. I get this all the time. We're a high-touch organization. I want to really engage the people. I don't want AI to do it for me. No kidding. Me too. What do you think? I want to reject it? I don't want to get a hug anymore? I want to reject the human condition? No, that's the crazy part. Now I'm saying that AI is telling us you must be high-touch or you're going to take that leftward curve and you're going to lose your humanity. So figure out the business model that allows you to have more high touch. Think of AI as a high touch tool. What I say to students now is you come to Babson College, you have 24/7, 365 support. You don't have to make an appointment. I would love for you to make an appointment to see me or a professor. That's great. That's one way to communicate. But we have to have mechanisms that you can get knowledge and mentoring and understanding 24/7, 365. And I want to make it as comfortable and easy for you to do that as possible because I care about you because you're a human being. You're not a product. And it is changing both how we learn and how we do. And we're putting in programs that say, what does enhance the learning piece of this? What enhances the doing piece of this? These are just examples of that. I'm in the franchise. I had to have a franchise one. I had to have a franchise bot. I was becoming obsessive. I tend to do that anyway. I was becoming obsessive about it. Everything I've ever written, every document, I got 1,700 companies to send me their disclosure documents. They were about 400 or 500 pages each. We digitized everything. We've got the best database of franchising ever. That's a wonderful project. Everyone in your business collecting data, getting key suppliers to help you with data, to enter into a database that you can use for decision making and that kind of tool. It's an amazing phenomenon. And we are all in. And I would ask you to look at what an all-in strategy means for you. All in doesn't mean go crazy. It means we got a plan to go and dominate this market, to dominate the understanding of the use of AI. So we had a phase one all-in that says, what is the foundation we can have that will allow us to then elevate? I'd ask you to say the same things in your companies. Then we say, what is strategy 2.0? What is the next level, and how do we bring this into a competitive advantage that's sustainable and continually iterative so that we can always be getting better? Constant improvement. And we said, because I like planning and I think business planning is important, we can do this in a number of steps. And right now, we're pretty comfortable through step 3, and we're likely will be combining step 4 and 5 into one process. I'd ask you to think about that for your companies, or your colleges, or any organization you're part of. And some of these tools, of course, the point of the spear for Babson is entrepreneurship education. So what should be our biggest project? This is not rocket science. I'm taking a lot of credit. I'm saying, boy, it was deep thought. What should we do first? Oh, yeah, let's focus on entrepreneurship. Just makes sense. Other places should focus where their competitive advantage is. Leverage the brand that you have and the competitive advantage that you have. I think the possibilities really are endless. I think we are just a few steps into a 10-mile race, or maybe a 1,000-mile race, and the possibilities are really terrific. I love this one. So I figured if AI had special capabilities, it should be able to give me hair. So I've made sure that I'm going to grow hair as a part of my AI strategy. Any questions? I just want, see, I'm doing this to try to build my brand. I want you to know I'm prepared. This is the college professor in me. The entrepreneur would wing it. The college professor over-prepares. I try to find a balance in there somehow.
Okay, we've got a marching in here. We've got a question for you to get these very shy Northern Irish people warmed up.
I have found that. Northern Ireland seems so shy. Yeah. People shy to me.
So here's the question. You're saying the world's a mess, but surely all that proposal that you take the world as a marketplace has been blown up almost literally, because the Americans don't want us to use Chinese tech. The Europeans are trying to develop their own technology. The world is more divided, so surely it's better to take a marketplace and scale if you wish, but to keep it local. The world is no longer the market, so what do you think?
Yeah, I think if we leave it up to government, they'll screw it up. And my apologies to anyone in government here. I would say the same thing in the United States. I may say the same thing in China, but I'll believe it anywhere I go. If we give it to the government, they're going to screw it up. We're the educators. We have to educate. Those people who are making those laws need better education. We need to press on. I'm not going to tell my students to take a route that is going to lead to failure because somebody in Washington doesn't want me to scale. So you've got to solve the problem, find a way to scale. And frankly, I think this is a temporary disruption in the marketplace, and scale is going to win. So get in now and try hard. And frankly, if you can scale just through your country as a phase 1, by the time you get to phase 2, there's going to be a lot of marketplace for you. I think there's still, listen, in Planet Fitness, we're going through a scaling operation now. We're going to have Planet Fitnesses truly all over the planet. We're a US-centric business. It's a mistake. Put your money where your mouth is, Steve. We are going to expand across the globe. And I think you've got to be dogged about that. I'm scaling on a global basis. And I think it's easier with AI as a tool to do that. Yes, ma'am.
How are we going to convince our young people that they need education and AI and not just AI?
But by being better educators, to start. I have found, here's two things. I think you have to be progressive in your understanding of what they need. if we believe that we need to codify the information and hand it to them and then test them about did you learn what was happening in the past, they are going to reject it. And we are going to lose them. And we are losing them, by the way. Not we're going to lose them, we're losing them. So what we have to say is, I want to collaborate with you on what you need to learn, and I want you to be my partner for the rest of your life. Ask this question of anyone. Will you need more units of knowledge tomorrow than you needed today or next year, in your business or in your life? Will knowledge continue to expand, and will your life be made better if you understood that more? You will get about 99% to say yes. Okay, if that's the case and I'm your learning partner, but I have to earn that, then we should have a lifelong relationship. I always thought this was funny. I have a doctor. I say, she is my doctor. I have a lawyer. I say, he is my lawyer. I own that relationship. In colleges, you graduate and we send you away. Why can't I be your educator? Why can't we be learning together for the rest of your life and build that relationship? I think it is, that unlocks the golden age of education. That becomes the lifelong learning model. This is the first time I can get to anyone, anywhere, anytime, with any information right now. From Babson College to Afghanistan or South America or Wisconsin or Belfast. That's the first time in human history that the transfer of knowledge and the building of knowledge is that ubiquitously available. Shame on us if we don't use it. I mean, that is just a mind-blowing potential. And we've always, by the way, we've always been hybrid. Think about this. You used to go to class and they would talk. Then they would use chalk. And then at some point they used overheads. And then they had whiteboards. Then they had PowerPoint. Now we have the internet. Then we're just developing tools to have a more fulsome relationship. I can stay connected with my students for the rest of their lives and talk to them anytime they can talk to me. What a gift that is. It's an amazing gift. We should not be afraid of it. We should embrace it. Own the educator. Own the relationship with the educator. Think of it that way.
Another question here. Hi, Stephen. Great talk. Michaela Black from Ulster University. One of the things always concerns me with AI, and I'm a professor of AI, is that we have a hugely, massively divided society, both here in Northern Ireland, and the World Health Organization are very worried about it. And even tying into your last answer, how do we make sure that AI doesn't become that bigger divide? Because not all the students have access to the technology, even though it's worldwide. So how do we prevent that from happening?
Yeah, we're not going to, and it's going to be painful, and we have to work through it. We have the opportunity to bring it to everyone. We shouldn't decrease the supply because we're not perfect. And first, we have to admit we're not perfect. There are serious gaps in the way that we're teaching and how we're accessing marketplaces. So let's look at those gaps and fill them. We have part of our strategy, entrepreneurial leaders impacting communities everywhere. Everywhere is actually the hardest to operationalize. So we've said we're going to develop partnerships in every country, in every market, on every continent. We have 47 so far. And we're sharing content with them. We're co-teaching classes. We're getting content from them. We're talking about how they get to different markets with different technologies and with different delivery systems. So we're going to try to solve it by having 1,000 partners maybe across the globe. That doesn't mean we'll get it done today, but we do recognize the problem and we recognize there's not a good solution yet. That's an entrepreneurial problem. That's how we're going to get rewarded by solving that problem. And I think it's a big one and a really interesting one. I get excited by the problem. Because if I solve it, then I've advanced the human condition. I got a shot at heaven.
Okay. Hello. My name is Aziz. I'm a student at Ulster University.
Yay.
So I understand the adoption of AI in education and in other industries is pretty interesting. But I want to ask now, at Babson College and like schools in general, have you considered the drawbacks or the negative impact of this adoption of AI on the students? Like, what are the measures you've considered in taking in place so that this, like, there's no over-dependence on AI or any drawbacks in general?
The question, as I understand it, is what are the problems that AI presents, and how does that directly affect students? Which I think every entrepreneur, every business person in the world ought to be asking. What am I doing, and how am I impacting my customer? So, and in many ways, some professors don't like this, some students don't even like this. I think of students as customers. I need to deliver. I say to students all the time, if you don't get a job, I didn't do my job. There's a clear value proposition here that I have to fulfill. How do you get that job? I have to transfer this knowledge to you, and I have to make sure that you are building knowledge with me. I think that we have to be really sensitive to the nature of the problem and how to stay in contact with the student. The biggest difference today versus maybe when most of you went to college is that there is a collaboration with the learner. That we have to build the relationship, that there is a real collaboration. My greatest fear in the business model today at Babson College and in college in general is the mental health of students. The pace of change and the intensity of the environment is so great that I fear it's having mental health issues. Now, frankly, this gets a little bit off the subject, but I can't help myself. I think campuses and colleges are one of the last bastions of community in the world. Our churches and synagogues and mosques aren't as cohesive. Our neighborhoods certainly are different now. The religions, but the colleges have a common understanding and are bringing people together. I think we have a bigger responsibility. And if we have lifelong learning, the address I made yesterday talked about the network is across generations. And we have the biggest opportunity we've ever had to create a multi-generational network of learning. And that's part of the responsibility of colleges.
Hi, Steve. Very insightful talk. My name is Omid Hashem. I head the AI and data practice at Keynote. I was very intrigued by your curve, where you basically regress, in effect. And so I have the same sort of mindset where you're delegating your thinking to, AI. So I was wondering, what might that look like from your point of view? What would be the examples of that, and how do you avoid it?
I don't know. The real answer is that the curve scares the heck out of me, and this is a recent, conclusion's too strong a word, but insight I have about it. I think we have to understand that I'm in control, that it is not losing our independence, it's losing our soul, and I don't mean to be religious about it at all, but the human condition requires a warmth and a connection, and I think we have to build the relationship with the technology that puts you at the center of it. You have to take responsibility, you have to review, we have to teach what that relationship is about. And we are just we are in kindergarten at understanding how to do that. But I think the problem is well articulated, and we just have to continue to try to solve it. Thank you very much. It's great I love Ireland, I love you guys, I love coming back here every year. This is my 30th trip. I think it's my 30th trip to Ireland. I can't wait to come back.